the LaxFactor podcast. What is up, lacrosse fans? You are watching the 184th episode of the LaxFactor podcast. I think that's what it is. I am your host, Ted Hoost. I missed last week because I was sick again, this time a little bit more severely. So I'm back this week. We're going to do a show today previewing the first college lacrosse game of the season, Bellarmine and Mercer. And we'll be back tomorrow to do a wrap-up of this game, and we'll do some previewing into next week's games as well. Before I get into it, as always, you can like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that crap if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us anywhere where you find podcasts. Spotify, we actually have the audio and the video, Apple Podcasts, Google, everywhere. And as always, you can go to LaxFactor.com to support us. We got a shop here with t-shirts and all sorts of other crap on here that you can buy and help support the podcast that way. But let's get right into this here, and let's talk about this game. The lone game on the college lacrosse schedule today, it is a rematch of last year's game that Bellarmine won. Bellarmine won both of the contests against Mercer. They won the opening season game against Mercer, and then they won their last game of the regular season against Mercer as well. I think they actually won by 3 goals in the, I think they won by 2 in the first game and 3 in the last game. So we all got to watch this game last year thanks to an injured, I think it was an injured Bellarmine player who recorded the game on his cell phone, and then at halftime he had to hastily find a charger for his phone so that he could continue to show the game to everybody. And it was actually pretty cool seeing it because, you know, everybody wanted to see the game. It wasn't being streamed anywhere. This kid started streaming it on, I believe, through his Twitter account, and we all watched it. And it was cool. It was cool. But this year, there's going to be some things that are different. Bellarmine and Mercer are no longer playing in the same conference. That's one. It's not a big deal because it's still a rivalry and being that these guys know all eyes are on them today. It's not a nationally televised game, although it will be streaming legitimately today. But you know these guys are going to be playing and treating this like a nationally televised game because in terms of viewership, it's going to be off the charts. People are going to be watching this game like crazy. So Bellarmine, they joined the ASUN conference with Air Force Utah, Cleveland State, Detroit Mercy, and Robert Morris. So that's cool for Bellarmine. But another big difference here in this week's opening game is last year Mercer played without Sean Goldsmith. Sean Goldsmith, their best player, very exciting offensive player, dynamic, can do all sorts of cool crap. He will hopefully be healthy. I thought I saw a scrimmage earlier in the season that he didn't suit up for, so we'll see how that goes. He missed half of the season last year, injured, but put up solid numbers despite that, going 18 and 10, outscored most of Bellarmine's roster despite the fact he played far less games. And Taylor Dooley is the only other top returner back for Mercer. He was 14 and 7 last year, but when you go down the roster, they have a graduate student and a senior, both that have put up some points here and there. So there's reason to be optimistic and to assume that Mercer is going to be able to put up some points here, especially because Bellarmine's defense is not the same defense they put on the field last year. They weren't that great last year, but they weren't terrible, and they're far more inexperienced this year. 3 of Bellarmine's top 4 defenders haven't stepped on a field yet for a collegiate team. I was supposed to show you here little pick of Goldsmith, a little pick of Dooley here. Dooley doesn't even have any action shots, which is a little bit scary for Mercer. So, yeah, Bellarmine, very inexperienced on defense. 3 of 4 top defenders haven't stepped on a field yet. Jon Robbins, preseason ASUN all-conference selection. He's going to be the guy that's going to have to anchor that defense overall. I like the beard, man. That's a nice woodchuck beard that Robbins is rocking. But they're actually pretty good-sized kid here. What is he? Oh, no, he's not. That looks like look at that picture. You would say, hey, that's a decent-sized kid, because he is. He's thick and all that. But then you come down here, 5'9", 185. But I wouldn't want to scrap with him. Looks like he might have wrestled in high school, too. You never scrap with a wrestler. Never scrap with a dude who has cauliflower ear. I bet you might see some cauliflower ear under there. I digress. Anyway, JC Higginbotham, the keeper for Bellarmine, very capable keeper. I'd like to say that he's actually a more than capable keeper that's just played on a team that, they're not that great defensively. He posted 52.3% save percentage last year, despite despite his 4-8 record between the pipes. So, I mean, and the only kicker for him The Bellarmine defense was quite a bit more experienced last year than they are this year. So I feel like the most you could ask of Higginbotham is, hey, man, stay above 50%. And that would probably be a pretty solid season for him. But he's good form, good technique. He's a solid goalkeeper, and they'll have him for another year or two, I think, also. So that's good for them on the defensive side of the ball because where you're inexperienced, it's good to have an experienced goalie in net for you. On offense for Bellarmine, we've got Kyle Playsted. He is the top returning scorer. Where did I put his points here? 16 and 13 last year for Playsted, top guy. They got 3 of their top 5 scorers back, so that is a good thing for Bellarmine. O'Rourke and Legnard. I don't know how to pronounce that. Legnard. I don't know, but they're back. That's 3 of their top 5, so that will help them a little bit. And then defensively for Mercer, they were not good last year. I think they ranked outside of the top 40 in defense. And Colin Kelly, though, posted a 51% save percentage in cage. He doesn't have an action shot either for Mercer. So the Mercer defense, like I said, not really all that great. So it's not like Bellarmine offensively isn't going to get their chances, but I still think Mercer has a little bit more experience, at least coming back. In terms of how that talent shakes out, I'm not entirely sure, but we'll see. Now, the keys to this game overall are going to be at the faceoff dot to start here. Ashton Wood. This dude murked Bellarmine last year. He was 11th nationally overall at the faceoff dot, winning 60% of his draws, but he won 92%. He won 92% of his draws last year in the 2 games against Bellarmine. So that's going to be a huge key in this game because you have an inexperienced defense in Bellarmine. You have a face-off guy that absolutely massacred his competition against Bellarmine last year. If he does that again this year with Goldsmith back, with a slightly better Mercer defense, an experienced Mercer goalkeeper, and the offense at Mercer, we know that they're going to be better as long as Goldsmith is healthy and on the field. That could end up getting ugly. I don't think it's going to get ugly because the kicker being, despite winning 92% of those draws, Mercer lost both of those games. So that is actually terrible, and that's partly due to the next key of the game is turnovers. Bellarmine forced Mercer into they didn't force Mercer into 55 plus turnovers, but Mercer committed 55 plus turnovers in the 2 games that they played against Bellarmine. In that first game, they committed, I believe, 30 plus turnovers, and I think 17 of them were in fact forced turnovers. So that's going to be a big key as well. They can win some draws, and Wood's going to win them those draws. But if you can't hold on to the ball, that doesn't matter in terms of being able to put points up on the board offensively. So overall, I think we're going to see a good game today. These guys hate each other. These guys are going to feel like this is a nationally televised game, despite the fact it's not. But I think the viewership is going to be at that level. Lacrosse Twitter is going to be blowing up. Hit up Lacrosse Twitter, twitter.com/LaxFactor. At LaxFactor is my Twitter handle. And I'm trying to be more active there. I've never been a big Twitter fan. I'm not a big social media fan, but I suppose I have to be. So we'll try to put a lot more content up on Instagram and between Facebook and all this other crap here. Twitter. Probably Facebook will put the least up. We just throw the podcast up on Facebook and that's it because everybody knows Facebook's for geezers. So in this one here, it's a short show today because like I said, we're just talking about this one game. But my prediction is Mercer by a goal. I think it's going to come right down to the wire. I think Mercer wins by a goal. I think that Wood will win a lot at the faceoff dot. I think that Mercer, knowing, hey, we committed huge errors in terms of 31 plus or 30 plus turnovers in that first game against Bellarmine last year. I think they're going to clean that up quite a bit. And so long as they can clean up the turnovers, it might not even be a 1-goal game. It could end up legitimately being a 2, 3, 4-goal game. I don't think you're going to see anyone get waxed here unless the inexperience on Bellarmine's defensive side really shines through. I think even if they have a rough go, I think Higginbotham can do a good job trying to keep them in the game a little bit. So I'm thinking a tight game, 1 goal by Mercer. I predict Goldsmith's going to have somewhere in the area of 5 or 6 points. He had a 7-point game against Utah last year, and let's check that out here. We can look at his stats and see what he did game by game. Oh, they're not going to give us his game by game stats, But you can see the kid can put points up on the board, and I think he's going to have a day. I suspect he's going to end up drawing Robbins, so that'll be a matchup to watch, is Robbins against Goldsmith, assuming that's how that plays out. So we'll see, but I bet you Goldsmith, 5 points. I think Mercer wins by a goal. If the defense really plays terrible for Bellarmine and they just merk him at the faceoff dot, it could be 4 or 5. It could turn into a bloodbath, but I doubt it. So that's it, man. Like I said, I was out last week. I had all these grand plans to do a huge review last week, but I ended up having some weird heart racing issues that lasted for about 2 weeks or so. And so there was no way I could talk through an entire podcast. And today, I'm only just now starting to kind of feel it well up here. So that was a good job. 10 minutes. I got through 10 minutes. Tomorrow may end up having to be short too, because talking seems to set me off here. So that's it. I'm going to stop rambling. I'm going to let you guys go. I will be back tomorrow morning with the wrap-up of this game, as well as going through and talking about the games for next week and previewing some more teams and things like that. So, as always, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. You can go to LaxFactor.com and you can watch all these videos. We have the audio podcast up there as well, or you can listen wherever you listen. And that's it. Hoost is out.